Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the conflict on the territory of the Middle East, and according to the President of the United States of America, the conflict on the territory of the Middle East ended and the 2 weeks truce has begun. So this is the statement that he made. I agree to suspend the bombing and attacks of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. The reason for doing so is that we have already met and excited all military objects and are very far along with a definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran and peace in the Middle East. We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe that it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. Almost all of the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized. On behalf of the United States of America as a president and also representing the countries of the Middle East, it is an honor to have this long-term problem close to resolution. So this is the statement that was made by the President of the United States of America, and this is exactly a 10-point plan that he was talking about. According to this 10-point plan, US agreed to commitment to non-aggression, a continuation of Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz, acceptance of uranium enrichment, lifting of all primary sanctions, lifting of all secondary sanctions, termination of all UN Security Council resolutions, termination of all Board of Governors resolutions, payment of compensation to Iran, withdrawal of US combat forces from the region, cessation of war on all fronts, including against Hezbollah in Lebanon. So everybody understand that this is not something like a 10-point plan. This is something like demands of the US capitulation. And right after this 10-point plan was published, and right after the President of the United States of America called this plan as a good basis, as a workable basis on which to negotiate, most of the states, most of the sources, most of the media said that the United States of America lost the war in the Middle East area, and everybody called the Iranian side as a winner of this conflict. And this is the most important question: who did win this war and who hasn't? Who is the loser of this war? And when talking about the morning of the 8th of April of 2026, almost every single state in the area of the Persian Gulf have already announced itself as a winner of this conflict. We have statements from Iran; they consider them as winners. We have reports from the United Arab Emirates; they also consider themselves as the winners from this conflict. And of course, the United States of America, we received almost every single day since the beginning of the conflict statements from the President of the United States of America that almost every single day, sometimes not even once, but twice, even 3 times a day, the United States of America were winning the Iranians. So the situation is very complicated because it's not a win-win situation. There are losers of this conflict. Another important thing is that we can say everything we want. Somebody can say that indeed the Iranians won the conflict. Somebody can say that the United States of America won the conflict. But saying the truth, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is what we feel right now. And the most important question, whether we believe that the conflict on the territory of the Middle East ended, or it's just a small pause, or it's just a small pause before something bigger. Because once again, when talking about this 10-point plan, we have lots of paragraphs that have been already broken since the ceasefire was announced. For example, according to this 10-point plan, cessation of war on all fronts, including against Hezbollah in Lebanon. But this morning, the President office, the office of Netanyahu stated that the Lebanon is not a part of the deal. From one side, Israel has agreed to join the 2-week ceasefire. According to a senior White House official, Israel will pause its bombing campaign while negotiations continue. That was also confirmed by CNN. And we have statement from the official accounts of the Israeli Prime Minister He stated that Israel supports President Trump's decision to suspend strikes against Iran for 2 weeks, subject to Iran immediately opening the strait and stopping all attacks on the US, Israel, and countries in the region. But from the other side, we received a report that Lebanon is not included in the 2-week ceasefire, Israel's Prime Minister's office. And furthermore, during the previous night, we received lots of interesting changes on the ground in the territory of the southern Lebanon. According to the latest updates, the Israelis managed to improve a buffer zone significantly. So this is the situation, for example, by the end of the 7th of April, and this is the situation by the beginning of the 8th of April. We see that the Israeli Defense Forces managed to improve their positions and managed to improve a buffer zone in the southern parts of Lebanon significantly. So which means that at least the 10 point of the 10 points plan won't be completed and won't be followed, at least by the Israeli side, which is obviously not something that the Iranians will like. So which means that there are very high chances that during this 2-week period, the Iranians will attack the territory of Israel once again with missiles. And of course, this situation could be used by the United States of America to strike back and to quit the negotiation process. One thing is clear is that the United States of America managed to complete one important goal from this situation. They managed to quit the conflict, and they managed to secure their assets and their bases through the Middle East region. And this is the most important thing, telling the truth, because since the beginning of this conflict, the Iranians managed to damage and sometimes even to destroy a lot of bases, radars, aircrafts, different launching sites of the United States of America in this region. And with this ceasefire, the United States of America managed to quit this conflict. And it doesn't mean that the conflict will be finished in 2 weeks, but if you ask my opinion, I believe that we will see a situation when the United States of America will just sell weapons, a lot of arms, a lot of weapons to the states of the Middle East. So it's my opinion, but let's wait and see what is going to happen in 2 weeks. As of the morning of the 8th of April of 2026, we see that lots of statements from the Iranian side, and today we have a report that Iran and Oman will charge ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz under the 2-week ceasefire plan. Iran will use the funds for reconstruction, while Oman's plans are unclear. So these are the plans of Iran and Oman for coming days, for coming 2 weeks. Another important thing is that, by the way, this morning we received a report that somebody attacked the island of Levan, and at least 4 US-Israeli airstrikes targeted the Levan oil refinery on Levan Island in the Persian Gulf. At least 2 refinery tanks are now on fire, and the facility's staff have been evacuated. These strikes took place several hours after the beginning of the ceasefire. Of course, according to even the US authorities' statements, it needs time before every single unit, every single brigade of Iran receive complete orders to stop attacking each other. The same thing concerns probably the forces of the United States of America. So that is why we believe that during the 8th of April, we will continue receiving updates about attacks, about mutual attacks, when the coalition will continue bombing the territory of Iran, and the Iranians will continue bombing the territory of the coalition, but all the number of strikes will reduce until complete halt of strikes. And the next 2 weeks we'll see a very difficult negotiation process. And once again, the most important question: do we believe that in 2 weeks the conflict on the territory of the Middle East will not return back? Another important victory, another important achievement that the United States of America managed to get, once again, the President Trump managed to stabilize oil prices. Of course, the current oil prices are not the same as we used to see 2 or 3 months ago before the beginning of the conflict. They are still on a very high level, $95.10 per barrel of WTI mark, and $94 per barrel for Brent oil, but obviously they're much lower in comparison with yesterday's prices, when the prices were on the level of $110, $115 per barrel. So obviously the prices dropped significantly, minus 20%. Another important thing that the United States of America will be most likely represented by by the Vice President of the United States of America, J.D. Vance, and the two previous envoys, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. Who will represent the Iranian side is currently unclear. Of course, the United States of America want to see who is the real leader of Iran right now and who makes decision, because it seems that the United States of America doesn't know for sure who is in charge of Iran right now. Because during the previous days we received lots of updates about the current status of the Mayapta Khamenei, because according to the pro-Israeli and pro-US sources, he is seriously injured or wounded. But today several pro-Iranian sources stated that Iran's new leader Ayatollah Maytaba Khamenei approved Pakistan's 2-week ceasefire proposal after intense diplomacy and last-minute pressure from China. So very difficult to say, of course, what is going to happen next. Another important thing is that despite the announcement of a ceasefire, the Israeli Air Force continues to carry out strikes in Iran. Iran, meanwhile, has fired several salvos of ballistic missiles at Israel since the ceasefire was reportedly supposed to take effect. So now the only thing we can do, of course, is to wait and see how the negotiation process is going to take place. The state of Pakistan was chosen as the site for negotiation process between the United States of America, Israel, and the Iranian side. And the next 2 weeks are going to be very difficult. But once again, I'll repeat my question, whether we believe that this is the end or it's just the beginning of something much, much bigger. Now let's talk about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, where during the previous 24 hours, once again, both the Russians and the Ukrainians attacked each other with hundreds of drones. And first, let's talk about the Ukrainian attack. The Ukrainians once again attacked mainly in the southern direction. And during the previous nights, the Russians published lots of videos of how they were repelling Ukrainian attacks. And the Ukrainians, according to information we have, were attacking the territories under control of the Russian Federation, not just with the drones, with the air drones, but also with Navy drones. The Russians were trying to repel this attack, but it seems that several Navy drones managed to break through Russian defense and to attack the settlement of Feodosia, which is located in the southeastern part of Crimea. And during this morning, we received lots of updates on this matter. It seems that the Ukrainians managed to hit an oil refinery or an oil depot in this area, this one, and currently huge fire is recorded in this area. So a large fire broke out, which was recorded on NASA films. This facility has been attacked several times in the past and has not been operational for some time due to significant damage. But it seems that the Russians began using this territory once again, and the Ukrainians attacked this facility immediately. Another attack was recorded in the area of the city of Lugansk. Here we have videos of explosions. The Ukrainians attacked the city. It seems that they attack some facility that the Russians use for military purposes. And we are not discussing the videos and updates of Ukraine attack deep inside of the territory under control of the Russian Federation. Here we can see an air defense system that was discovered by the Ukrainians and attacked with an FPV drone. So lots of videos. The Russians from their side also attacked the territory of Ukraine. And this morning, the Minister of Defense of Ukraine stated that the Russians used 176 drones to attack the territory of Ukraine, and most of the attacks and explosions the second day in a row were recorded in the northern and the northeastern parts of Ukraine. So, for example, this is the situation during the 7th of April. As you can see, most of the strikes and explosions were recorded in the most northern parts of Ukraine, and this is the situation on the 8th of April. So let's increase the number of updates for 2 days. We see that the Russians are over concentrated and over focused just through this territory of Ukraine. So it's northern, northeastern, and the territories of Ukraine. So lots of explosions were recorded. The Russians were trying to hit and to destroy oil facilities and oil depots. And let's discuss the most recent attacks that were carried out by Russians overnight. So the sources stated that the Russians attacked the settlement of Robny, something like railway infrastructure is on fire after Geraint strikes, and the Russians attacked an oil refinery in the Sumy region. Here we can see the settlement of Kachalovka. Here we can see oil refinery or an oil depot that was attacked by Russians and destroyed. Furthermore, the Russians attacked and destroyed several substations that support probably the railway service and railway connection between different towns and cities. So one attack took place in the most northeastern part. Here the Russians attacked an object of energy infrastructure, substation more precisely. Another attack took place in the area of the settlement of Akhtirka. Here we have the same story. The Russians attacked a small Akhtirska power station. And the Russians attacked an oil depot around the settlement of Kachalovka. So this territory was damaged, and we could see the attack on these sites at the beginning of this video. Drones were flying over the territory, and then we can see a very huge fire, and then a very huge fire with the good quality of the video. And the most important strike took place to the southwest of the city of Kharkiv, around the settlement in the area of the city by the name of Mirefa. The Russians attacked this oil refinery, and as a result of attack, the huge fire broke out. Footage taken last night in the town of Mirefa, south of Kharkiv. Interestingly, the area still houses an oil refinery. So lots of explosions, big fire was recorded in this area. It seems that the Russians attacked this facility once again. This is a very important situation, that the Russians are attacking northern and the northeastern parts of Ukraine. There might be several reasons of this. The first one is that Ukrainians usually attack deep inside of the territory of Russian Federation, also from this area, so that's why they need to have and to store a lot of fuel for these purposes, because they use hundreds of drones, and these drones uses fuel, of course, so that is why they need to keep lots of fuel in this region to be flexible and mobile. The second thing is that the Ukrainians may prepare something like an offensive operation, probably even on the territory of the Russian Federation, so that is why they need to have lots of fuel in this region as well. So the Russians, as we can see, managed to discover the concentration of fuel in this area, and the Russians are bombing and attacking this territory significantly. Another important thing, the changes on the ground. During the previous nights, nothing was recorded. The front line is stable. We have just several updates published by different sources. For example, pro-Ukrainian sources reported today and confirmed that the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to finish the battle for the settlement of Grishna. Today, pro-Ukrainian sources have almost completely colored the territory under Russian control. So, and this is probably the only change that we received during the night. Also during the night we received lots of updates from the Zaporozhye direction. The Russians were attacking the settlement of Vozdvizhivka, and we have a video where we can see how the Russians were concentrating their fire on the most southeastern part of the settlement. And furthermore, during the previous night we received reports published by the group of forces is that according to them very heavy clashes are taking place currently for the settlement of Vozdvizhivka. So we received more and more proofs that the Russians are fighting already on the territories of the settlements of Verkhnya Tersk and Vozdvizhivka, and it seems that in coming days these villages would be captured by Russians, and they will provide us additional proofs on this matter. As for the city of Konstantinovka, during the previous 12 hours we haven't received anything special, just several videos published by pro-Russian sources of how they were attacking positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in the area of Drushkovka, where the Ukrainians tried to concentrate a critical mass before moving and sending this critical mass further in the direction of the city. So despite the fact that the Russians are basically reducing the city of Konstantinovka till ruins, we see that the Ukrainians are still holding on their positions. As for the northern directions, during the previous 12 hours we haven't received anything special. Probably the only important video is the video from the area of Zarechna, and in this video we can see how Russians were attacking positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in this region with aviation. And that's it for the short video. The Military with Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.